My name is Adam, and this is the story of the night I almost became a rug. That year, I had just ended a 4-year relationship. There were no explosive fights or dramatic betrayals. We just gradually realized we were staying together more out of habit than love. The emptiness after a long-term breakup wasn't sharp, but it was persistent and uncomfortable. A hollow space I didn't know how to fill. So I downloaded Tinder. I wasn't looking for a new relationship, and I certainly wasn't thinking about anything long-term. I just wanted to talk to someone and go on a few dates to get my mind off things. Clara was the first person to message me. She was 36, 7 years older than me. Her first message caught my attention, and I still remember it word for word. "What are you really looking for on here? Be honest." Her bluntness surprised me. We texted back and forth for about a week. Clara made it clear from the start that she wasn't looking for love or commitment. She didn't want strings or promises. She just wanted experiences. I found her both strange and incredibly attractive. I had never met anyone who spoke about those things with such confidence and authority. After a week of chatting, we agreed to meet at a bar. Clara was already there when I arrived. She was wearing a black dress and a leather jacket. She looked stunning. Clara was very natural and direct. She told me about her job and her solo travels. She even felt comfortable enough to share details about where she lived, a small bungalow in the suburbs, about a 30-minute drive from downtown. "Let's head back to my place and make the rest of this night something to remember," she said. She was surprisingly forward, and I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. We drove to Clara's bungalow. The decor inside was very unusual, reflecting a very intense personality. The thing that stood out the most to me was a cream-colored rug in the middle of the living room. It didn't look like any rug I had ever seen before. It was thick, with a pebbly texture that looked like animal hide. Clara sat down right next to me. Without a word or even a hint, she moved with quick, decisive actions. Her eyes locked onto mine. She leaned into me, and we both fell onto that cream-colored rug in the center of the room. I hesitated for a second and suggested we go to the bedroom, but Clara shook her head. Her smile stayed fixed on her face, but her eyes were cold. "I'm the one in charge of the fun. We're going to have a good time right here." As soon as she said that, Clara began to slowly stroke the surface of the rug. Then she leaned down, sniffed the material, and kissed it. I froze at her bizarre behavior, but my adrenaline was pumping, so I pushed the thought aside and lay back down. The closer I got to the rug, the stronger that metallic, raw smell became. My stomach started to turn. Clara was still being very aggressive, and I tried to keep up with her, but within seconds, my head started spinning, and my stomach cramped violently. Before I could even think, I pushed Clara off me and vomited right onto that cream-colored rug. I emptied everything in my stomach onto the floor. By the time I could sit up and catch my breath, the room had fallen into a dead silence. Clara stood up abruptly. I've never seen a person change so fast. One second she was a calm woman in total control. The next, she looked like a different person entirely. Her face was pale with rage. "This is the only thing in this house that doesn't remind me of him." Clara's voice was trembling. I had no idea who him was. I stammered an apology and tried to explain, but she cut me off with a cold scream. "Get out! Get the hell out of here right now!" I didn't argue. I grabbed my things and walked out of the bungalow. I stood on a suburban street at 2 a.m. and called an Uber. On the way home, I just thought I had survived the worst and most embarrassing date of my life. I stopped using Tinder after that. Instead of looking for something new, I focused on my existing friendships. I thought this story was over until 2 months later. I was eating breakfast and scrolling through the news when I saw Clara's name on the screen. I read the headline 3 times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Clara had been arrested for luring, kidnapping, and torturing several men she met on dating apps. The police had searched her suburban bungalow. During the investigation, they discovered that the cream-colored rug in the living room wasn't made of animal hide. It was made of human skin, stitched together from several different victims. I sat in silence for a long time after reading that article. The details of that night came back to me clearer than ever. The foul metallic smell, the way Claire stroked the surface, and her comment about it being the only thing that didn't remind her of him. It was her trophy collection. It was her prize, and because I had ruined it, she was too disgusted to keep me there. It makes me sick to think that I was lying on that thing, and that I almost became a part of that horror show myself. My most embarrassing moment turned out to be the very thing that saved my life. I deleted Tinder for good after that night. I chose to start meeting people in person and building relationships slowly and surely. Still, I don't totally blame the apps. In the end, the problem isn't the tool, it's the person using it. I believe in fate and luck. It's just that my luck happened to be a little bit gross. My name is Heather. 6 months ago, I was in a really bad place after a tough breakup. One weekend night while I was home alone, I decided to re-download Tinder just to find someone to talk to. After swiping through dozens of boring profiles, I stopped at a guy named Evan, 28. His photos looked very natural. He gave off a sincere, serious vibe that I rarely saw on the app. We matched and started chatting. Evan told me he grew up in Australia and was currently backpacking across the US. His messages weren't shallow at all. He made me feel like we were sharing pieces of our souls rather than just flirting. After a few days of constant texting, Evan suggested meeting in person. We made plans for Friday night at a crowded bar downtown. I spent the whole afternoon getting ready, picking out an elegant dress and doing my makeup perfectly. I showed up right on time, my heart pounding with excitement. However, 30 minutes passed, then 45, and Evan still wasn't there. I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted, but there was no reply. After waiting for an hour, feeling rejected and embarrassed under the stares of other customers, I left in a rage. Just as I was about to head home, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Evan. He explained in a very sincere tone that an unexpected emergency had come up and he couldn't make it. He apologized profusely and begged for another chance 2 days later. Because my first impression of him was so good, I felt bad and agreed. The second date was set for Sunday evening. This time, I prepared even more carefully. I told my best friend all about Evan, and she was so excited she even helped me pick my outfit and do my hair. Everything was going smoothly until a few hours before the date. He suddenly texted saying he wanted to change the location. He suggested meeting at a coffee shop in a much quieter neighborhood. I thought it was a bit odd, but I really wanted to see him, so I agreed. As I drove toward the area, I started to struggle. The GPS on my phone seemed to be glitching. I couldn't find any coffee shop but the name he gave me. I pulled over and texted him, saying I'd be 15 minutes late because I was lost. Immediately, Evan's attitude flipped. His reply was blunt, impatient, and full of blame. "Why didn't you check the address before you left? Do you have no respect for my time?" The sudden change made me feel uneasy. I tried to explain that my GPS was acting up. I continued to drive slowly around the area. Just as I stopped my car near a small dark alley, my phone suddenly rang. It was my best friend. As soon as I answered, her voice sounded completely panicked. "Heather, where are you? Get out of there right now!" Before I could even respond, she sent me a link to a local news article and told me to open it immediately. Evan's portrait flashed across my screen, but the headline made my blood run cold. "Australian tourist found dead in rental unit." The article stated that Evan had been murdered and robbed. The most terrifying part was the time of death. It was determined to be the same Friday night he had missed our first date. While I was sitting here in total shock, a new message popped up. It was from Evan. "I see your car. Why haven't you gotten out to come see me yet?" I immediately floored it and pulled a U-turn to get off that street. My heart was racing as I realized that if my GPS hadn't glitched, if I had driven straight to the spot and stepped out of the car, something horrific would have happened to me. That same night, I took all the messages and my call history to the police station. After checking the data, the police confirmed a gruesome theory. The killer had murdered Evan on Friday night and taken his phone. The killer had read all of our messages. Instead of disappearing, he decided to keep using Evan's identity to lure me to a secluded spot to commit another crime. He had been texting me for 2 days, using a phone that likely still had the real owner's blood on it. It took me many weeks to even begin to feel calm again. The thing that haunts me the most isn't just that I almost died. It's the feeling that I had opened my heart, smiled, and caught feelings for someone who didn't even exist anymore. My name's Robbie, and I'm based in Denver. Last month, I flew out to Portland for a client meeting. My company had me booked at some downtown hotel equals, but I ditched that and grabbed a house on an app in the Pearl District instead. Quieter, and I like having a kitchen. It was a Friday night and work wrapped up earlier than expected. I was bored, so I opened up Tinder and started swiping. That's when I came across Jen. She was 28, long brown hair, big bright smile. Local girl. Said she loved hiking. We matched right away. "Hey stranger, new around here?" That was the first message she sent, just a few minutes after we matched. 2 hours later, we were grabbing dinner at Pok Pok on Division. She showed up in casual clothes, totally chill vibe. What hit me was, she looked exactly like her profile pic. We clicked right away. She told me about bartending gigs, weekend hikes in the gorge. I couldn't get enough of her laugh. Dinner stretched to 3 hours. After that, we hit up a bar, then another one. Jen knew all the cool spots in town. She asked about Denver, my job, and why I was still single. Around midnight, she leaned in and suggested that we head back to my place, saying it might be nice to have a little privacy. I grinned. Called us a cab right then. In the car, she rested her head on my shoulder. Her perfume was subtle, but it hit me just right, got my heart racing a little. Once we got to the house, I poured us each a glass of whiskey. We sank into the couch, still chatting. After a bit, she set her glass on the table. "You mind if I step outside for a smoke?" she asked. Trying to quit, but you know. She gave this little shrug. "No worries," I said. "I'll be here." 5 minutes. She slipped out the door. I watched her go, smiling to myself. Would be kind of crazy if this was what I'd been looking for all along. I grabbed my phone, checked emails, scrolled through Instagram, the usual. Outside, a light drizzle started. 5 minutes ticked by. I got up, wandered into the kitchen to grab a glass of water. Then I heard something. From the back of the house, like someone prying open a window. I froze, metal scraping. Then soft footsteps. My heart was pounding like crazy. I peeked through the crack in the door. 2 figures climbing in through the window. 2 men. Black hoodies. Gloves. Total cliché. I froze. Robbers. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. Tried to call 911. No signal. Shit. They moved toward the living room. I started looking around for an exit. "Check the living room," one of them said. "He's got to be here somewhere." I stopped breathing for a second. Did they know I was here? Then it hit me. The laptop bag was still on the table. My wallet was in the jacket right next to it. For a split second, I thought about grabbing them and sneaking out. Too late. They were already in the middle of the room. "Jackpot," one of them muttered. "This guy's loaded. Wallet's full of cash." "I told you." I froze. "I told you?" Who the hell told them? Then the front door swung open. The sound of heels on wood floors. Jen, you guys are early. Her voice, totally different now. Traffic was light. Is he still here? Somewhere, probably hiding. My eyes went wide. Wait, she was in on it? I barely had time to think. I heard footsteps coming my way. I spun around and bolted for the bedroom. Carefully, I cracked the window open and started to climb out. "Check the bedroom!" one of them shouted. No time. I slipped through the window. The rain had made everything slick. I lost my footing and slammed onto the ground with a loud thud. "There! He's out here!" I scrambled up and took off. Ran like hell. Made it to the main road, heart punching my ribs. I waved both arms like crazy when I spotted a cab. The driver pulled over, eyes wide. "You okay?" "Police station," I panted. "Please, urgent." I jumped in, yelling for him to go now. At the station, I gave them everything, names, what happened, what was taken. Then I waited. 2 hours later, a cop came back. "The place was cleared out," he said. "Looks like a break-in, but no one's there now. Laptop, gone. Wallet, gone. Watch, gone. Everything valuable, poof." "We're looking into the dating app profile," the cop had said. "But odds are, it's fake." I just nodded. Didn't have the energy to argue. Didn't sleep at all that night. Next morning, I canceled all my credit cards and filed an insurance claim. That trip ended on the worst damn note. 2 weeks after I got back to Denver, I was finally starting to forget, trying to move on, get back to normal. Then, one Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I glanced out the window and saw a woman standing there, black suit, holding a briefcase. "This is Sarah Chen, private investigator," she said, handing me her card. "I need to talk to you. It's about what happened in Portland." I hesitated. "Didn't the cops close that case?" "Not exactly. Mind if I come in?" I paused, then stepped aside and let her in. Sarah sat down on the couch, popped open her briefcase, and pulled out a fat folder. "Robbie, you're not the only one," she said, flipping it open. She spread out a few photos across the table. Different houses, different men, same expression, shocked, pissed, scared. Police reports from multiple cities. "Jennifer Martinez has scammed at least 12 men this year," she said flatly. Then she looked me dead in the eye. "But here's the weird part. You're the only one who made it out." My heart skipped. "What do you mean, made it out?" Sarah flipped the page, tapping on a small line with her finger. "The insurance company you used? They hired me to look into it. They thought it was odd. Your stuff was a lot more valuable than what other victims lost. And you bought a property insurance policy just 3 months before the trip." I felt my chest tighten. "Wait, are you accusing me of something?" "I'm not accusing," she said calmly. "I'm asking questions." She locked eyes with me. "How'd you know exactly how to slip out that bedroom window so clean in the middle of a rainy night? Why'd you take out a policy worth way more than what you actually lost?" The room went dead quiet. "And most importantly," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, "the security cam on the corner caught you and Jen grabbing coffee Thursday afternoon. That's the day before you said you met her on Tinder." I didn't move, just sat there staring while the floor dropped out from under me. The perfect plan. Bring Jen in, stage a fake robbery, cash out the insurance, and wipe out my debt was unraveling right in front of me. "So, you want to tell me what really happened, Robbie?" I'm Blanca, 51. After a string of bad marriages and short-term relationships, I pretty much gave up on love. But then I met Juan on Tinder. He was young, charming, and full of energy. For the first time in years, my heart actually fluttered. My phone rang and I just knew it was Juan. Every video call from him made me feel like a giddy teenager again. I quickly fixed my hair, put on some lipstick, and hit the answer button. "Blanca, I miss you so much." My face turned bright red from his compliment. We'd been in a long-distance relationship for a year, and these talks were my biggest comfort. Juan always knew how to make me feel special. "When are you going to visit me?" Juan asked, like he always did. But this time, I had a different answer. "I've decided. I sold my car and some other stuff. I'm coming to Peru next month." Juan's smile made me forget all my doubts. The Lima air in November felt as warm as Juan's hug when he held me at the airport. Seeing him in person, I was surprised. He was even more handsome than in his pictures. Dark skin, black hair, and deep eyes that seemed to look right into my soul. "Welcome to Peru, my love. Are you tired? I've got everything ready." Juan's apartment was near the coast in Huacho, about a 2-hour drive from Lima. By the time we got there, the sun was setting. His place was simple, not much furniture, and not many personal touches. There was just one corner in his bedroom, with a desk covered in medical tools and books. "Sorry about the mess," he said. "I'm studying medicine, remember? Those tools are for practice." I nodded, recalling Juan had told me he was studying to become a surgeon. The first 3 days felt like a dream. Juan took me around the city, introduced me to amazing ceviche, and told me stories about Peruvian culture. But by the 4th day, I started to notice something was off. Juan got a call and spoke in Spanish too fast for me to understand. When he hung up, he became quiet and thoughtful. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing. I need to go to work for a bit." "Can you stay home today?" he replied, but his eyes weren't looking straight at me like before. I nodded, a little disappointed, but understanding that he had his own things to do. After Juan left, I decided to tidy up the apartment a little. While cleaning, I happened to find a folder in a drawer under his desk. I opened it and saw detailed anatomical pictures. These weren't from a textbook, they were real photos. Next to them was a list of women's names, mostly Spanish, with numbers and strange symbols next to each one. My heart pounded faster when I saw my own name at the bottom of the list. I kept looking and found another one of Juan's phones. When I opened it, I saw many messages with someone named Dr. H in Spanish. The sound of a key turning in the lock startled me. I quickly put everything back and moved away from his work area. Juan walked in, looking tired but smiling when he saw me. "I'm home earlier than expected. What did you do all day?" "Just tidied up a bit," I tried to say, keeping my voice normal. Something flickered in Juan's eyes, then it disappeared quickly. "Tomorrow, we'll have a picnic at the beach. There's a really special spot I want to take you to." That night, I couldn't sleep. The strange documents, the list of names, and the messages kept swirling in my head. I looked at Juan sleeping peacefully next to me. Was I just imagining things? He loved me, I was sure of it. But what about those documents? The next morning, Juan got up early and made breakfast. He was full of energy, much happier than he'd been yesterday. "Today's going to be a special day," he said, handing me a smoothie. I took a sip. It tasted good, but also a little unusual. I didn't think much of it. Juan watched me intently as I drank the whole smoothie. "Good. Now go get changed so we can leave early." When I stood up, the whole room started spinning. I had to grab the wall to keep from falling. Juan caught me before I hit the floor. I saw that his worried look was gone. Instead, he was watching me with cold eyes. "I'm so sorry, Blanca," Juan whispered in my ear. I tried to speak and move, but I couldn't. Fear surged through me as I realized I was completely helpless. Juan pulled me into the bathroom and placed me in the tub. He left for a moment, then came back with a bag of medical tools. Tears streamed down my face as Juan pulled out a shiny scalpel. "Blanca, you're perfect. No sickness. Your liver, kidneys, and heart will save many lives and make me rich." Juan stroked my hair gently. "Don't worry, I won't waste any part of you." I was totally helpless. All I could do was watch my body being destroyed. 7 days later, an old fisherman found a piece of a human body washed ashore on the Huacho beach. The next day, more parts were found. Investigators were surprised by how precise the cuts were. It was clearly the work of someone with medical knowledge. Juan had left the apartment, but the police found evidence: the list of names, pictures, and a room full of surgical tools. They also discovered a notebook with contact information for clients waiting for organ transplants. Surveillance videos at the airport showed Juan leaving Peru on November 8th, just one day after I went missing. He vanished, but my story continues. Because behind every Juan Pablo Villafuerte are dozens of others, predators who hunt lonely and vulnerable women online, promising love but delivering death. And while my body may have been cut up and scattered, my spirit lives on, as a warning to anyone who trusts too easily in love from a screen. Don't be like me. Don't become the next name on a predator's list.
I'm Claire. The story I'm about to tell isn't exactly a horror story, just a strange lunch with a guy I used to date. And it's a little lesson about the differences in how two people view a relationship. I matched with him on Tinder early that winter. His profile was full of photos taken in perfectly lit coffee shops. He loved everything with a European flair, from clothes and coffee to his eating habits. His stories often revolved around cities like Paris or Milan, or small boutique restaurants described as authentic or deeply local. His bio was short but defining: lover of France, appreciator of fine cheese and European aesthetics. We were in different majors and had never met on campus. This was the first time either of us had genuinely entered a serious relationship after countless half-hearted matches and short, fizzled-out chats. Perhaps that's why we were both endearingly nervous, reserved, and naive. One day, he said he wanted to try my home cooking. I had already thought about inviting him to my apartment over the weekend. We arranged to meet on Saturday afternoon. That day, he showed up with a paper bag holding a French pear, a La France variety, which looked upscale with its glossy skin and import sticker. I had never eaten this kind. I grew up in a middle-class family. The familiar fruits to me were red apples, bananas, or discounted strawberries on the weekend. I asked if I needed to peel it. He said this pear should be eaten with camembert cheese to be truly French style. It sounded interesting, and he offered to prepare the appetizer himself. I stepped back, giving him space in the kitchen. But only a few minutes later, he came back and asked, "Where's the camembert cheese?" I was a bit confused. I only had a few slices of sandwich cheese for my morning breakfast. Camembert, to me, was something that appeared at a buffet or in a cooking TikTok video. His eyes widened, not exactly angry, but clearly disappointed. "You don't have camembert?" I suggested we go to the nearby supermarket together, as I didn't know which type to buy. We walked to Whole Foods. There, he selected a box of French camembert, quite expensive for a typical student, and I was the one who paid for it. Back at my place, he sliced the pear into thin pieces, then arranged the soft white cheese on the plate like he was preparing a dish for a food magazine. I took a bite. The pear was still hard, the flesh slightly gritty, and the flavor bland. The cheese was rich but had quite a strong smell. I didn't say anything, but my expression must have given away my thoughts. He looked at me and said, "This is how the French eat it. It is refined." Then he began talking about how taste is something you have to learn to appreciate, that some foods cannot be judged on the first try, that maturing in eating is another kind of maturity. I didn't know how to react. Part of me found it funny. Part of me felt judged just because I wasn't used to an European-style appetizer. I quietly served the main course: grilled salmon with honey mustard sauce, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables, and a bowl of miso soup I learned to make from my Japanese roommate. Salmon is my favorite dish, easy to eat, not too expensive, and always available in the freezer. The moment he took his first bite, he looked up. "What is this? This is delicious." From then on, he focused solely on the fish. I offered to grill more if he wanted, as salmon cooks quickly. He didn't say anything, just quietly held out his plate. I had exactly 6 salmon fillets that day. I originally planned to grill 4, 2 for each of us. In the end, he ate 5, leaving me with exactly 1 portion. I stared at the empty fish plate, speechless. but I felt a little deflated. After the meal, he moved closer to me. His gestures were intimate, as if this lunch had been a complete success. He gazed at me intently and slowly leaned in. I knew he intended to kiss me, but as he got closer, I distinctly smelled the lingering grilled fish on his breath. My feelings instantly fizzled out like a candle placed in the wind. I made an excuse that I needed to rest and gently ushered him out. A few days later, I sent him a message, saying I was too busy with classes and my part-time job. I needed space, and this relationship was probably no longer a good fit. We broke up over a few text messages. No drama, no tears. Later, whenever we ran into each other on campus, he would always ask, "Have you bought Camembert yet?" I would shake my head. He would shrug and say, "Seriously? Not even a word of check-in?" before turning away. I wasn't sad, nor was I angry. I felt I had done the right thing. Honestly, I had strong feelings for him at first, but after that lunch, they were devoured by him along with the 5 salmon fillets. A month later, I bought the French pear again, the same La France variety he had brought. This time, I left it in the kitchen for a few days, waiting until the fruit was soft and emitted a sweet fragrance. When I took the first bite, the sweetness spread smoothly in my mouth, soft and refreshing. I smiled, thinking to myself, some things are only delicious when the time is right. They cannot be rushed or forced. Just like people in relationships, they are only beautiful when enjoyed correctly. Otherwise, whether it's a French pear or premium camembert, it will only leave you feeling weary.
I still remember how excited and nervous I was chatting with that girl, Julia Rose, on Snapchat. From the very first pics, Julia had me hooked in a way I can't even explain. Her sweet smile, shiny blonde hair, and those deep blue eyes had me totally lost in them. We got close fast, spending hours chatting about everything, movies, childhood memories, and all the little stuff in life. Julia just got me better than anyone else, and I felt this weirdly strong connection with her. One day, Julia told me to come visit her. At first, I was hesitant, but then the excitement totally took over. She sent me the address of this house in the suburbs, an hour's drive from where I lived. Before heading out, I asked her to prove who she was, just to make sure she wasn't some sketchy stranger. Julia sent back this short video. She smiled, said my name, and told me she couldn't wait to meet me. The video felt way too real to be fake. That afternoon, I headed out. The winter sky was all gray and heavy, and the air was freezing. Snow covered both sides of the road, and little houses popped up all alone in the fog. The closer we got to the address Julia gave, the more empty it looked, like the place had been forgotten. The bare trees were dry, their branches reaching up like they were asking for help. The house was at the end of a dead-end street, totally cut off from the other houses. It was an old-school house, with a weathered wooden front and frosty glass windows. There was no light coming from the windows. I felt kinda uneasy, but I told myself Julia was probably just trying to surprise me. I knocked 3 times soft. There was no reply, just the wind whistling through the cracks. After a few seconds, I gently pushed the door open and walked in, calling out for Julia. The inside was dark and cold, with a musty smell in the air. There were a few old photos on the wall, but they were so faded it was hard to make out the faces. The living room was empty, just an old armchair by the fireplace. There were faint footprints in the dust on the wooden floor, leading up to the stairs. I just instinctively walked up, each step creaking under me. When I got to this half-closed door on the second floor, I could feel my heart pounding. I pushed the door open, and the room was empty. Right as I was about to turn away, my phone buzzed with a text. I stopped, pulled my phone out of my pocket, and it was a Snapchat from Julia. "I'm here." My blood just ran cold. The message was sent while I was standing in that room. I looked around, trying to find any sign that someone was there, but it was just 4 silent walls, Panicking, I decided to just leave the house. As I stepped out the door, I turned around again, and what I saw made me freeze. On the second floor, through the frosted glass, I saw a figure standing. A blonde woman, with deep blue eyes that seemed to cut through the night, was staring at me. But in the blink of an eye, the figure was gone. I rushed to the car, my heart pounding. On the way back, I kept wondering if what just happened was even real. But things got even weirder when I checked Snapchat. Julia's account was gone, like she'd never even existed. I told this story to my close friend, Matt. He was quiet for a while, then said, his voice a little shaky, "Julia Rose?" I nodded, feeling like there was a lump in my throat. Matt went on to tell me that 2 years ago, a girl named Julia had lived in that area. She had died after a party at the exact house I'd been to. Julia was pretty well known on Snapchat for her stunning photos, and her look, blonde hair, blue eyes, was exactly like hers. I couldn't sleep at all that night. The image of the shadow on the glass door, the old house, and Matt's story kept spinning in my head. Had Julia really died? And if she was gone, then who the heck had I been talking to? A week later, I went back to the place. This time, I went during the day. When I got there, I noticed the house looked totally different. The windows were covered with thick wooden boards, and the house looked like it had been empty for ages. There was no sign anyone had ever lived there. I asked a few people nearby, and an old man told me the house had been empty for the past 2 years, since Julia died. On the way back, when I glanced in the rearview mirror, it felt like something was moving behind me. But when I turned around to get a better look, the road was totally empty. I told myself it was all just my imagination, but when I stopped to chill for a sec, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a text from Julia, just one sentence: "Thanks for coming." I am Louisa, 34 years old. I write these words with trembling hands, fear consuming my mind day and night. It has been 3 months since I escaped, yet the feeling never fades. The sensation that he is out there somewhere, watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. I write this in the hope that someone will believe me. I once loved a monster disguised as a man. Nathaniel, my ex-boyfriend, had a sick obsession. Horror movies, grotesque masks, and images of corpses too disturbing for anyone to look at for long. People say love makes us blind. For me, that blindness nearly cost me my life. I met Nathaniel at a horror movie screening in Boston. He was striking at first glance, tall, with messy black hair, bright eyes, and a charming smile. When our eyes met, I felt a jolt of electricity run through my body. At first, Nathaniel was funny, intelligent, and I quickly fell for him. Nathaniel was a senior studying film at Boston University. He was full of ideas, theories about fear, and how to evoke it from the depths of the human soul. I remember the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about knives, scissors, blood, and bodies. "True fear isn't about screams, gore, or monsters," he whispered as we lay together. "True fear is in the realization of how monstrous people can become, that anyone could be the monster." Now I understand that wasn't a theory. It was a confession. His apartment, which I gradually started to see as home, was a museum of horror. The room was filled with bizarre masks, fake knives, and blood-stained props. The walls were covered in horror movie posters, not the mainstream ones, but the dark banned films from various countries. He owned an extensive collection of books on crime, criminal psychology, and forensic case studies. At first, I thought it was just artistic passion, a dedication to his studies. Gradually, his interests became more extreme. He frequently watched real videos of murders, dismembered bodies on dark websites. Some nights, I'd wake up to find him sitting in front of his computer, watching images no one should ever see. When I asked, he called it research. You wouldn't understand, he murmured, stroking my hair. Our conversation shifted from movies to real-life horror stories. He knew the details of every serial killer case, from Ted Bundy to the lesser-known murderers. He spoke of them with an eerie admiration, as if they were artists. More than once, I caught him smiling while reading details that would make most people sick. I should have left. But love and dependence kept me there. The next warning sign came about 3 months into our relationship. When angry, Nathaniel's eyes went blank, as if his soul had momentarily left his body, leaving behind an empty shell. The first time I saw it was during an argument over me meeting a male friend. He grabbed my throat, squeezed playfully, then laughed as my face turned red from lack of oxygen. "You're so weak," he whispered before releasing me. Nathaniel pulled me into his arms, stroking my back as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget that look, completely void of humanity. After that, I started noticing other strange things. He always carried a black coat, rope, sharp knives. Nathaniel explained they were props for his short film projects, but I never saw a completed film. Nathaniel began disappearing on weekend nights. He said he was working with his film crew. I believed him, until one night he came home at 3 a.m, his clothes filthy with damp earth and a metallic, rancid smell. The turning point came on a winter night, 5 months after we met. We were drinking wine in his apartment. The snow was falling heavily outside. Nathaniel drank more than usual, and as the alcohol settled, he started talking about a murder case I had never heard of. "Do you know why the police never found Julia Rawson?" he asked, his eyes hazy but disturbingly focused. Julia Rawson, according to the news, was a middle-aged woman who had vanished after a shopping trip in May. It was a widely reported case, yet unsolved. "Because we cut her into 12 pieces, Nathaniel continued. He grinned. I froze. Was this a joke? I couldn't tell, but there was no hesitation in his eyes. 12 pieces, he repeated, savoring each syllable. I fought the urge to vomit, trying to convince myself it was a sick joke, but deep down I knew he was telling the truth. "We?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Nathaniel smirked. "No, just me. Me and my instincts. You wouldn't want to disappoint me, would you?" he would say, whenever I did something he disliked. "I love you, but if you betray me, you know what happens." I began planning my escape. I secretly saved money, looked for a place to hide, and tried to gather evidence to take to the police. But Nathaniel was terrifyingly careful. There was nothing, no proof, only drunken words he could easily deny. I knew I had to leave, but fear kept me frozen. The fear that if I failed, I'd be the next 12 pieces. Then one night, Nathaniel dropped his facade. He forced me to drink, despite my refusal. Then he sat on the bed, silently sharpening a knife, his hollow eyes staring straight through me, as if I no longer existed. "If you leave, I will hunt you down, until only 12 pieces remain," he said, his voice eerily gentle. I shut my eyes, pretending to sleep, but my mind was racing. I knew this was my last chance. When Nathaniel finally passed out, I slipped out of bed. With trembling hands, I grabbed the half-empty whiskey bottle. I summoned every ounce of courage and smashed it against his head before running. I didn't stop for clothes or belongings. I just ran through the empty streets of Boston at 3 a.m, in nothing but thin pajamas, in the freezing winter air. I ran until my feet were bloody, until I couldn't breathe. I never looked back. It has been 3 months since that night. I've moved to another city, changed my name, cut and dyed my hair. But the fear follows me like a shadow. I reported him to the police, but they said I had no evidence. Nathaniel was charming, a talented film student with a bright future. Who would believe me? A panicked woman making unprovable accusations. There's no reported case called 12 Pieces, an officer told me, his skepticism obvious. But I know what I heard. I know what Nathaniel is capable of. I feel his eyes on me. Anonymous emails began appearing in my inbox. No words, just images of blood. One day, I received a package with no sender. Inside was a small doll, cut into 12 pieces. I know he will come back. He will find me. And this time, there will be no mercy. If anyone reads this, believe me, Nathaniel is real. He is not a fictional character from a paranoid mind. He is a monster in human skin, walking among us. Nathaniel is still out there, looking for his next victim. And if what he told me is true, Julia Rawson was not the first, and I will not be the last. Beware of men obsessed with horror who carry knives and ropes. Beware of those empty, soulless eyes when they speak of pain. Beware of those who know too much about death and decay. And if you hear someone talking about the 12 pieces, run immediately. Don't look back. Don't wait for an explanation. Just run. Because if you don't, you might become the next piece in his collection. I am writing this from a small cafe in a city I will not name. A man just walked in, with messy black hair and a familiar coat. I can't see his face, but I know it's him. And I know my time is up. I'm Mia, 22, and a recent college graduate. I work at a coffee shop downtown, which is also where I met and started dating Matthew. Our first date was at a cozy Italian restaurant. After dinner, neither of us wanted the night to end, so Matthew suggested we go to a club a few blocks away. I was excited because I love to dance. The club was crowded, and we had a great time dancing for hours. While we were at the club, we met a man named Luke. He was confident and had a very charming demeanor. Luke introduced himself as Hot Tub Luke, a nickname I didn't think much of at the time, just found it a little odd. Luke invited us to a party at his house. A few other people around us also got invited and seemed excited. They all decided to share an Uber to Hot Tub Luke's place. I was thrilled, thinking it would be a great opportunity to make more friends and have new experiences. Matthew seemed a little hesitant, but I convinced him, and he went along with it. When we arrived, I was genuinely stunned by Luke's house. It was a large and modern 2-story home. Inside, everything was sleek and expensive. There was a huge living room, a full bar stocked with all kinds of liquor, and glass doors that led to the backyard with a hot tub. The party started quickly, the music was loud, and people started pouring drinks. I got swept up in the lively atmosphere. The hot tub was very popular, and people were readily taking off their outer clothes and jumping in. Even though I didn't get in the hot tub, I was having a great time dancing and talking to others. However, Matthew didn't get into the party as much as I did. He wasn't dancing a lot and kept looking around as if he was evaluating everything. I noticed Matthew watching Luke a few times, but I didn't think much of it. Around 2 a.m., when I was still having a blast, Matthew came over and said we should go home. I was surprised. Although it was late, the party was still going strong. I said I wanted to stay a little longer, but Matthew was firm. He said he was tired and didn't want to linger. I was a little annoyed and thought Matthew was spoiling the fun. But I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so we called a taxi and left. The ride home was quiet. I was still buzzing with excitement, but Matthew seemed distracted. He didn't say much, just stared out the window. I figured he was just tired or didn't like parties. The next morning, I woke up to a phone call from an unknown number. I answered, and it was the police. They asked if I had attended a hot tub party the night before. I quickly confirmed that I had. The police asked me to come to the station to answer some questions, which left me confused. On the way to the station, my mind was racing. I had no idea what was going on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. At the station, the officers were very serious. They asked about the party, such as when I got there, who I was with, and what I had seen. After that, they told me the reason for their call. A girl at the party had been sexually assaulted after Matthew and I left. The police didn't go into detail, but said the incident was very bad, and Luke was the perpetrator. I was in complete shock. I had been having the time of my life in a place where such a disgusting crime was happening. The police asked more questions about Luke, but I didn't know anything about him besides his charming and elegant demeanor. The officers added that they had found a lot of videos and pictures of parties, and even Luke's crimes stored on his computer. This made me feel sick to my stomach. The man I thought was just a fun host was a predator, and I had been in his house completely unaware. Leaving the police station, I felt shaky. I couldn't stop thinking about how close I had come to something horrific. I felt stupid for not realizing it. But more than that, I couldn't stop thinking about Matthew. Thanks to Matthew's determination and caution, I was saved from something terrible. I texted Matthew as soon as I got home. He came over that afternoon, and I told him everything the police had said. Matthew looked pale, probably also in shock. I asked him why he was so insistent on leaving the party. Matthew said he didn't feel comfortable and didn't trust Luke. It was a gut feeling he had from watching how Luke acted. He was always hovering around the girls, encouraging them to chug their drinks. Matthew didn't want to scare me at the time, so he just said he was tired and wanted to go home. I hugged him and thanked him so much. In the following weeks, I followed the news about Luke. It turned out his real name was Chris. He had been doing this for years, hosting big parties, luring young girls, and then taking advantage of them. Chris finally went to court a few months later. I wasn't called as a witness, but I followed the case online. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. This brought a sense of justice, but it couldn't erase the harm he had caused. This incident changed the way I see seemingly harmless situations and the importance of being more careful with strangers. Matthew and I are doing very well. I'm so grateful to have him by my side. My name is Maria, and I live in Maryland. As a single woman in my early 30s, I've tried my luck on dating apps quite a bit. A few times, I matched with guys who seemed decent. Most of those conversations fizzled out and went nowhere, but there was one man who left an impression on me that I will never be able to forget. His name was Adrian. He was 35 and worked in the tech industry. At first, my impression of him was actually pretty good. Everything about him seemed polite, balanced, and pleasant. However, the more we talked, the more I started to feel that something was off. Adrian would often say very abstract things about religion, morality, and misplaced faith. These topics sounded deep at first, but they made me feel distant and a little uneasy. Eventually, I realized there was no real connection being built between us. After a few weeks, I decided to end things. It ended on good terms, or at least, that's what I thought. I kept him as a friend on Facebook, viewing him as just another social media acquaintance. After a while, Adrian's posts started appearing constantly on my newsfeed. At first, I just scrolled past them, but the more I read, the more disturbed I became. The first post that really caught my eye was a photo of a handwritten note. It said, "Women will be spared. I am sorry to the families who will be murdered." It was even signed at the bottom, and I noticed the signature started with the letter A. Then came another photo, a church taken at night, with a caption full of pure hatred. It read, "I am here to deny the lives of the men that God has actively worked to deny me every day. No women will be harmed." It sounded like he was announcing a plan that he had already finalized. Another status update mentioned target practice in a vague way, and I felt a literal chill run down my spine when I read it. I realized his target was a mass shooting at a church. He was blaming religion for his life falling apart. I sat there shaking as I scrolled through those insane words. It felt like I was reading the manifesto of someone who was about to cross a line of no return. I started taking screenshots of every single post. My hands were trembling as I prepared to send them to my best friend to ask if I was overreacting. But before I could hit send, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Adrian himself. "I know you don't care anymore, but I really liked you. I hope in another life we have a chance." It felt heavy, like a final goodbye. It seemed certain that he was about to do something horrific. I immediately called 911. I practically screamed into the phone, trying to explain that an old acquaintance of mine had a gun and was about to kill people at a church. I gave them every bit of information I had. I also told them that based on the photo of the church he shared, I had a strong suspicion about the location of the attack. After that call, the police moved fast. They went to Adrian's registered apartment in Fairfax County, but he wasn't there. While tracking him, they found Adrian's car parked in the lot of Park Valley Church in Prince William County, Virginia. The church's security team also reported a man in a black coat and sunglasses wandering around the lobby acting very suspicious. When security approached him, they discovered he was carrying a concealed semi-automatic handgun. Adrian was arrested on the spot. A few days later, the story blew up all over the news and social media. I read articles praising the anonymous woman who bravely reported the threat and saved thousands of lives. But as I dug into the details online, I realized we almost witnessed a massacre, if not for a ridiculous mistake made by the shooter. A detective revealed that the only reason Adrian didn't open fire immediately was because he was using an outdated church schedule. He arrived long after the main service had ended. Instead of a room filled with 1,000 men he hated, he only found an empty lobby and a few alert security guards. He'd been wandering around, confused and looking for targets, until the police arrived. During his interrogation, Adrian tried to claim the posts were just creative writing for a fiction novel. But the police found 5 printed copies of his apology letter to the victims' families at his house, which crushed his lies. He admitted his life spiraled after he donated 10% of his paycheck to the church, a total of $452 that he believed brought him bad luck, caused him to lose his job, and sent him into a deep depression. In March 2025, Adrian was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Even now, my blood runs cold when I think about how close we were to a tragedy. If I had hesitated for even a few more minutes, things would have gone too far. I feel proud that I was clear-headed enough to speak up when it mattered most. On the morning of September 24th, 2023, in Anne Arundel, Maryland, a woman reported Rui Jen, 35, to the police, suspecting he was planning an attack on a church. Police found Jen's vehicle at Park Valley Church, Prince William County, Virginia, where he was found in possession of a handgun, ammunition, a knife, and bear spray. In March 2025, Rui Jen was sentenced to 25 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder and obstructing religious freedom. I'm Bianca, 27, working in an office and making enough to enjoy the things I love. I've been single for years. Past relationships really broke my heart, but I still believe I'll find my other half, and I'm always ready to open my heart to someone new. Last year's Valentine's Day was just like every other year, quiet and nothing special. But that morning, I found a handwritten letter in my desk drawer. It was from Isaac, the new guy at work I had a thing for. He asked me to come over to his place for dinner at 9 that night. I kept reading the letter over and over, my heart racing like crazy. Was that some kind of joke? But his signature at the bottom was legit, and his handwriting was neat and confident, just like him. Isaac was the guy everyone noticed as soon as he started at the company. He was tall, good-looking, and had this confidence like no one else. He always knew how to grab everyone's attention without even trying. Out of all the girls into him, I was the least noticeable, so I didn't have the guts to tell him how I felt. I was feeling both happy and confused, trying to figure out why this was happening to me. I rushed through work, drove home, and spent hours getting ready. All I had with me was a red dress that hugged my body, some fancy heels, and a bottle of good red wine. I stood in front of the mirror, checking out my face, telling myself everything would be fine. I thought that night was going to be a night to remember. The road to Isaac's place was in a quiet neighborhood. The bare trees lined up under the yellow glow of the streetlights. The house was at the end of the road, and the light from the windows looked like an invite. I got out of the car, and the chilly February air made me shiver a little. I felt a rush of excitement as I knocked on the door. The door opened, and there was Isaac with his usual warm smile. He looked perfect as usual, with his shiny black hair and sharp suit that really showed off his confident vibe. "You're here." His eyes practically lit up with satisfaction. I walked in, and the smell of food and lavender from the candles filled the air. The place inside was really neat. The dining table was set up with flickering candles and dishes that smelled amazing. I felt like I was in a dream, but then a sense of unease started creeping in. We clinked glasses, and I tried to chill out a bit more, but my eyes just wandered to the paintings on the wall. At first, I thought they were abstract paintings, but when I took a closer look, they kinda looked like drawings of human anatomy. The details were so vivid, it was creepy. Some of them even had notes scribbled in red ink, like there was some kind of plan coming together. I started feeling confused and uneasy, so I stood up and used the excuse of needing to wash my hands to get away from the table. The bathroom was at the end of the hallway, and the light from the dining table didn't reach that far. I walked in, and my eyes immediately went to the mirror above the sink. There was a red smudge on the mirror, like someone had tried to wipe it off quickly with their hand. I just stood there in front of the mirror, every stroke of the painting stuck in my head, making my mind race with a bunch of unanswered questions. All of a sudden, I saw something flash behind me in the mirror. My heart skipped a beat, but when I turned around, the hallway was empty. A chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't help but think maybe I was walking into a trap that had been set up from the start. Back at the table, the vibe between Isaac and me had totally changed. His smiles weren't warm anymore. They were cold and calculating. The room got suddenly stuffy, and time felt like it was slowing down in a creepy way. My eyes landed on a big painting on the wall. In the painting, there was a girl with blonde hair and big eyes. Sarah, that name just popped into my head, a former coworker who left a few months ago. A wave of horror hit me. I couldn't stay calm anymore. I stood up, quickly said thanks, and asked if I could leave. But Isaac wasn't letting me leave that easily. He stood up, blocking me, and the smile on his face turned into something pretty terrifying. Isaac stepped closer, and I could feel my breath getting faster. I saw a cold, lifeless look in Isaac's eyes, like he'd lost all humanity. I took a step back, but my foot got caught on a chair. He lunged at me, and I barely had time to think before I pulled out the fork I had hidden in my bag. I swung it, and I felt the resistance as it stuck into Isaac's hand. He screamed and stepped back just enough for me to make a run for the door. I rushed to the front door, but it was locked from the inside. I could hear Isaac's footsteps and curses echoing behind me. I turned around and saw him coming at me with bloodshot eyes and a face twisted in pain. His hands were red, but he didn't stop. I ran to the nearest window and used all my strength to smash the glass. As the glass shattered, I climbed through, even though my hands got cut by the sharp pieces. I ran like mad down the dark street, feeling all warm and wet from my palms and knees. But I didn't stop, too scared to look back. When I got to my car, I jumped in, slammed the door shut, and drove off. My heart was pounding, and every breath felt heavy, like I had just escaped from hell. When I got to the police station, I almost collapsed, my whole body shaking. My story made the police head straight to Isaac's place. They found his secret basement, where he kept stuff and pictures of his past victims. Isaac was caught trying to hide not far from the house. His cuffed eyes kept staring me down through the police car window, like he wanted to haunt me forever. The house, the paintings, and Isaac's eyes still popped into my head every night when I closed my eyes. I knew I dodged death, but the darkness Isaac brought would always stick in my head, something I could never shake off.
Thank you for watching until the end. As mentioned earlier, our goal of reaching 50,000 subscribers in 2026 is still ongoing. If you enjoy these stories, please give us a hand and support us